Kenya. You're most welcome to today's meeting. You are most welcome to today's meeting. Today's meeting is just an employer's insights to what they need and what they see are the gaps that they seek to persons, to the young pharmacists, to even other pharmacists who they are interviewing during the panels. So today's interview is more of an employer's insight. I can see that you're joined in by a senior respected member, Dr. Ajay Patel. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayesh. I can also see you in this meeting. Thank you very much and most welcome. So this meeting is being hosted by PSK. We have distinguished guests who've joined us today who are also members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. Right now we are at only 47 attendees. So we wait to at least for us to get to 100 members. So that we are able to begin for this meeting. So probably we'll begin officially at 7:05. Give us till 7:05. We will be able to begin and kickstart our meeting today. It's more of a conversation. It's not more of a webinar presentation. It's more of a conversation, one-on-one conversation, candid conversation with people who sit on the other side of the panel for the young pharmacists. Thank you very much. Let's hope our other members join in on time so that we're able to begin at 7:05. Either 7:05 or 100 members in the meeting. Asanteni sana for joining us today. So probably as we await our members to join, we're now at least 60. So on the chat box, I will request us to probably type what sector are you employed in, or what sector do you look or do you prospect to work in. So probably members who've joined in, kindly type in on the chat box what sector do you work in, or what sector do you prospect to work in. Just on the chat box, let the panelists have a feel of who is here with us today and what are their aspirations and probably their career lines for us today. On the chat box, kindly write that. Amazing. I can see one is already working as a career as a regulatory affairs associate. Wow. There is even a student who's joined us today, so that's amazing. So probably 7:05 is here with us, ladies and gentlemen, respected seniors of the profession, esteemed members of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, students who have joined us today from various university chapters in the country. Without further much ado, let me welcome you to today's meeting. Today's meeting is on an employer's insight to what they seek from we who go seeking the jobs and from anybody else who seeks the job. So it's just a basic question. Are you interviewing for jobs and wondering why you're not getting employed? Do you need help improving your personal and professional brand? Remember that after graduation and after the pharmacy, you're now a professional and you should carry yourself as a professional brand. And in this webinar, the employers will provide insights into what they seek from you. So ladies and gentlemen, this webinar is hosted by the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. Before that, we go through some few ground rules. First and foremost is to thank you for participating in this session. All participants are muted during the entire course of this session. You're requested to ask your questions via the Q&A tab at the bottom of your window. Questions shall be addressed by presenters on the Q&A tab, But this is for this, we're going to also allow you probably ask one-on-one questions, and our panel today is fully packed to ensure that they respond to questions best. For PSK members, if you've not already done so, subscribe on the PPB portal for the this meeting to get your CPD points, and which will only be awarded to paid up members. For KPA members, the attendance list shall be shared with officials for awarding of the CPD points. A point to note is that this session is being recorded and will be made available on the PSK's YouTube page. Without further much ado, this is our agenda for today, and my tenure stops, or my responsibility for today stops here. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further much ado, let me welcome none other than, let me probably use term words that people in the career trying, she's modeled her career and as a supply chain expert, and also right now she is an advocate for self injectables in matters and also matters of family planning. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome none other than my boss and my mentor, my work mentor, none other than Dr. Daniela Munene, who's going to give the welcome and opening remarks. Dr. Daniela, are you with us?
Yes, Bao, thank you very much for that warm welcome. I'd like to welcome all our participants, particularly the young pharmacists who are joining us today. I'd like to welcome our distinguished panelists who are going to speak to us and tell us what they look for when they're hiring. I'm very pleased to see my esteemed colleagues, Dr. Karuma, Dr. Isha, Dr. Nihal, Dr. Esther Anyango, I see you there, and Dr. Anise. I'm just happy that this forum is happening. Maybe it will be the first of many, where we try and bridge the gap between our senior colleagues and our junior colleagues. So to our junior colleagues, we want to give you a hand up and give you the best advice for you to make the best of the opportunities that come your way. And so I would ask that you take our advice and the advice of these distinguished panelists in very good faith, because they have volunteered their time. So whatever they're telling you, they're truly just telling you for your own good. And Dr. Paul Mwaniki as well, I think he's on the panel. I don't see him in the video feed, but he'll be there. And so I also look forward to your feedback, young pharmacists, to tell us whether this is useful for you, because we would be open and willing to having more sessions like this and on topics that you choose. So feel welcome. And at this point, I would like to welcome our very able moderators. We have two moderators, and one is Dr. Anise Rahimtullah. Bao, I don't know if there's a slide for the moderators. Dr. Anise is the chairman of one of our standing committees, which is the PR committee. PSK has constitutional committees, 5 of them. And one is the Committee of Fellows, the Legal and Ethics Committee, the Education Committee, the Investments and Budget Committee, and the Public Relations Committee. The Public Relations Committee is responsible for our front-facing activities, engaging the public and colleagues for events such as conferences, Pharmacy Awareness Week, pharmacy student competition days, like some of you participated in at USIU 2 years ago. So the person behind this is Dr. Anise, who chairs the PR committee. Our other moderator is Dr. Esther Anyango. Dr. Esther is one of you. She's a young pharmacist. She's very diligent and she takes a lot of initiative. She has volunteered at PSK on and off over the years to help us plan and host online conferences. So I hand over the meeting to our moderators. I'll just sit back and enjoy alongside you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and should I say boys and girls? We're going to try and make this as interactive as we can on a platform such as Zoom. And I want to start by, first of all, thanking all the presenters for taking time out to be on this call. And hopefully we will meet the objectives that we have set out, is to how we can better prepare people for the job market and what is out there and what we're looking for when we're employing young pharmacists especially. Before I start, I'm going to hand over to my co-moderator to do a brief introduction of me, and then we carry on from there.
Hi everyone, thank you so much, Dr. Anis, for introducing me to introduce you. So I'm just looking for your profile right now so that I can introduce you. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to introduce our main moderator, who is Dr. Anis. So his name is Anis Rahimtullah, and he reckons that he graduated with a BSc Pharm before most of us were born, and at a time when less than 50 pharmacists entered the job market a year, and when only a pharm tech only dispensed under the pharmacist. He used, or rather, they used to, during Dr. Anis's time, he used to defunct technology. They used defunct technology to communicate, however, ensured effective patient outcomes through communication. He's currently in PSK NEC, and it's really it's an honor to have you, Dr. Anis, here. So clearly, you are from a generation that is different from the generation we are in. So really nice to have you here as a moderator, the main moderator of our session. So welcome, Dr. Anis. I'd like to throw it out to you so we may kickstart our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. For me, it's a pleasure to be here and to be able to speak to younger pharmacists and hopefully pass on some of the batons that we still hold. We're going to run this in a fairly open way. Each presenter will speak for about 5 minutes. You can ask questions on the chat box, which Esther will pick up and move them on to the speakers, or you can wait until the end and then we'll start unmuting people who want to actually ask the questions. So before I introduce the first speaker, I want to share with you a story. Before I share with you that story, I must tell you one thing. You're going to have to use quite a bit of your judgment to decipher whether what I'm telling you is the truth, or what I'm telling you is a joke, or what I'm telling you is relevant or not relevant. That I leave to you. Don't quote me on something that you said, oh, we'll do this, and I'll come back and say, but that was a joke, we should have picked it up. You guys are smart, you're in pharmacy school or you're completed pharmacy school, you should be able to differentiate between what is the truth and what is fake news. So here we go. I'm going to share with you a story of, I see what my friend Jayesh is on the call as well. So he was telling me this story yesterday. He said that he was interviewing for a sales position, and the fellow came in and he said, what position are you here for? So the pharmacist now told him that I'm here for the sales position. So he said, fine. And he was looking around his desk and he didn't find anything that he would be able to take an example of. So he took his laptop and he gave it to the person who had come for the interview. And he said to him, here, take this laptop and try and sell it to me. So the guy took the laptop, went out of the office, and Jayesh was there waiting for him to come back 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and an hour later he realizes that this guy is not coming back. And then today morning he got a call from him. He says, he called the guy up and he said, you took my laptop. He said, yeah, if you want it, pay me $200 and it's yours. And that was his sales call. So the bad thing about these Zoom calls, you don't know whether the joke has sunk in or the story has sunk in or it's just past everyone. But if you're laughing, then maybe you can, on your chat box, share some laughter emojis or whatever you guys do on these chat boxes to tell somebody that you're actually listening to them. So the first speaker is going to speak to us mainly about the retail pharmacy sector. If you don't know already, and Daniela will correct me if I'm wrong, it's less than 5% of pharmacies are in the retail pharmacy sector. There was a study that was done a couple of years back, and we found that less than 5% of pharmacists are in the retail pharmacy sector, and most of the pharmacy outlets in the country are actually operated by pharmtechs. And it's this generation and the next that will come after you that is going to change that. So our first speaker is Dr. Daniel Karuma, graduated in 2003. His experience has been mostly in community and a few wholesale pharmacies in Nairobi for the last 16 years. He joined Good Life Pharmacy 4 years ago and was promoted to chief pharmacist about 1.5 years later. He has been a member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya since 2006. I welcome you to the floor, Dr. Daniel.
Thank you, Dr. Anis, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for being in such a distinguished panel, and thanks to the young pharmacists who are out there listening to me. I would hope to impart as much of what I know as what I've received from my 16 years of experience. Let me first start by introducing Good Life. Good Life Pharmacy is a retail pharmacy. We like to consider ourselves as the #1 retail pharmacy in East Africa in terms of footprint. We have over 70 branches. We have over 70 branches across Kenya and Uganda. Our members of staff are around 300, and we continue to recruit to match the company growth. Our vision is actually to be the first choice provider of primary healthcare and wellness in East Africa, reaching lives of 5 million by next year. What is this we are talking about called community pharmacy? By Kenyan definition, a community pharmacy is any place under the direction of under the supervision of a pharmacist or an enrolled pharmaceutical technology which provides mainly medication or other products in the community. That's outside the hospital setting, where there is fulfillment of medical prescription and is available to counsel patients on prescriptions, OTC drug, healthcare, and wellness issues. I've heard Dr. Anis talked about the current status of community pharmacies in Kenya. We had a conversation with the PPB the other day, and that was last year. And by that time, we had 6,200 licensed pharmacists, among which only a paltry 600 were superintended by registered pharmacists. Another statistic is PPB was registering, I don't know about 2020 because that was a COVID year, but before that they were registering around 1,000 pharmacies per year. And unfortunately, a similar number of existing outlets were unable to apply for renewal. This shows that this is a challenging market. Sustainability in the sector is quite difficult, but this shouldn't discourage you. We keep pushing on. We need to be able to adapt to a rapidly changing market. This is a rapidly changing market, and pharmacists need to get some retail perspectives so they can be able to survive. Meanwhile, only about 5% of pharmacists currently practice in the retail sector. Efforts are underway to move from the traditional practice that was product-based to a patient-based model that will surely improve opportunities for young pharmacists and hopefully also improve interest. What is the role of a pharmacist in this sector? The role of a pharmacist has evolved from a traditional dispenser or a compounder of medicines toward a provider of patient care. This means that currently, more of healthcare management, people management, and environmental management skills are being demanded of the pharmacist. I want to give you a few of pointers of what I would consider the main job description, would be the main job description of a community pharmacist. Number one is a person who is able to manage or actively lead and develop pharmacy teams because generally, whenever you're employed in a community pharmacy, we expect you to manage the pharmacy. To manage pharmacy teams to achieve high professional and operational standards with exemplary levels of customer service and deliver store objective and targets, what we call KPIs. Number two, to proactively develop effective external working relationships, with the regulators, healthcare insurers, medical practitioners, etc., to support the growth and development of the pharmacy or the business. Number three is to provide, these are the main job descriptions which I would consider very necessary for a retail pharmacist. Number three is to provide additional lead and fulfill pharmacist responsibilities within the store, ensuring all professional and ethical and legal obligations are met and exceeded. Number four would be to develop and lead the store professional services offering. This includes blood pressure monitoring services, blood sugar monitoring services to patients who come to the pharmacy. Right now in Good Life, we started offering cholesterol tests. This is an expectation, and to provide, to translate the read from this, translate the results from these tests and advise the patients accordingly. Other responsibilities would include facilitating and reviewing the delivery of exemplary customer service and pharmaceutical services at all times, and uphold standards that are required by the pharmacy and the regulator. To recruit, lead, and train, motivate, and manage staff such that they can meet company requirements. And drive business performance whilst maintaining a good team morale. Number seven, driving personal development in leadership, management through own performance reviews, and seeking regular feedback and coaching from the team. Number eight would be managing all required reporting procedures clearly, concisely, and accurately. We got an email today that there might be a review on the current guidelines, and we will be needed to report on narcotics and psychotropic tracking and movement. This would be the role of a pharmacist. Number nine is to ensure that the pharmacy complies with all legal and professional responsibilities, that a professional pharmaceutical service is provided at all times, and that professional pharmaceutical services is provided at all times. Number 10 is to develop and lead professional pharmaceutical services, meeting customer needs, or what we call, I would say, meeting patient needs at all times and in accordance with pharmacy requirements. And the other point is to be aware of current updates and latest developments and factors affecting community pharmacy practice as a whole, locally and internationally. By so doing, but anticipate the pharmacy needs and implement changes. Maximize sales and profit potential, because retail pharmacy is a business, by adherence to stock management procedures, effective deployment of resources, and minimizing wastage through expiries, whilst ensuring customer needs are met. And the community pharmacists would expect to lead the team to meet achievable business targets. That is by understanding through the P&Ls and sales and KPIs, key performance indicators, and have action plans that will remedy if there is need for improvement of, or if there is failure or reducing of performance. The other point is to identify and develop and review opportunities locally for sales and productivity. Develop expertise and fulfill training needs for staff and self. Encourage continuous development, continuous professional development through encouraging your team to go to attend CPD points in accordance with PPB guidelines. And maintain all prescription and patient records as recommended by PPB. I think it's important for me to list a few skills that at Good Life we would expect the pharmacist to have to appropriately perform the above tasks, the tasks I've just gone through. Number one is to have some experience in retail business. which would include understanding how to read a P&L, understanding the importance of the customer, and the importance of data to the retail business. Number 2 is to be up to date, to have up-to-date knowledge of the current guidelines and other pharmacy-related issues. Number 3 is to have good interpersonal skills and relationship building skills. And 4 is to be honest and to have integrity. Very important. Pharmacy is all about cash in the till and also stocks. Retail pharmacy, that is. Number 5 is to have strong organizational and communication skills. Number 6, which is I think is absolutely important, is to be agile and to accommodate new ideas. We are in an age now where we are talking about, in the West, we are talking about pharmacy-based vaccinations. And it's something that we might need to adopt in this country. I've heard that our CEO is advocating for provision of family planning through pharmacies. We should be agile enough to be able to take up those ideas. Number 7 is the ability to work to meet targets. I've said this enough times. Number 8 is understanding the current supply chain needs that affects access to pharmaceutical products in the pharmacy. The key challenges there are very few challenges that I can pinpoint when I think about it that community pharmacy employers are facing from maybe what I say, new pharmacists. And maybe number 1 would be most of the new pharmacists that we are getting in our industry are unable to settle in our industry. In other words, they come to retail as a stopgap to other career opportunities. I would wish to urge upcoming pharmacists to take up community pharmacy as a place where you can grow your career and you can grow in your abilities. Number 2 is an understanding of retail and pharmaceutical marketing skills. This is something that is very, very new. In conclusion, as discussed previously, the professional retail pharmacy role is becoming more clinical, and community pharmacists are now being regarded as healthcare providers. This will mean that you will need to use time in between pharmacy school and first job or during the first years of your practice to improve on your value systems and skills by attending provided training. Please take community pharmacy as a career choice. I will request that by ending, I would request that Daniela and the PSK team, we are available to receive CVs from pharmacists. We've not been receiving many of late. We are available, we are recruiting. Anyone who is interested in joining the retail pharmacy field through PSK can send me their CVs. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. Over to you, Anis.
Thank you. Maybe Esther can run us through the Q&A if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Karuma, for like listing down the skills that are suitable for retail pharmacy. And I think one of the things that I've picked out is that probably the challenge is that we young people don't want to settle in retail. So I think that's a good point. That if you decide to go into retail, then do all that appertains to retail pharmacy and settle in it for your growth. Yes. The only question that I see has been in the chat box, and I'd like to encourage us to use the Q&A, because when you use the chat, it can easily get lost. So there's, and I don't think to attack you or anything, but Juan Davis is asking how many pharmacists has Good Life employed so far. But I think you've already mentioned that that you're open to employing pharmacists. So maybe just take us through what the relationship Good Life, or rather in the past is. Now that you're open to pharmacists, is there something changing? Was it that Good Life was not open to pharmacists before? And is that something that's changing in the organization that we young pharmacists need to know so that we can, actively take up these positions? So I think that's a question for you.
Okay, yeah, so that's a very good question directed to me. So let me say this. As I've said before, I'll start with myself. Before I got to where I am, I was practicing in a store. in a branch in Good Life. Good Life has always employed pharmacists previously. As I said, we've had a problem of traction. We recruit pharmacists and they don't, I don't know how to put this, they don't seem to stay for long. So I think eventually what happened is we started seeing more of the farm techs, but there was no direct, I cannot say there was a business decision that said we should not recruit pharmacists. We've had pharmacists previously, and we'll continue to have pharmacists. And as I've said, we are open to recruiting pharmacists. We are at 70 now. We intend to get to 100 by the end of the year if it's possible, God willing. And out of that, we will need to do a lot of recruitments, and I'm hoping most of those recruitments will come from, will be pharmacists through PSK.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think that also answers another question that was asking, you know, how many pharmacists are there in Good Life? So thank you, and I think that's very encouraging also. And also, I just also like us to note that he's saying that he's going to recruit through PSK. So I think that's also an encouragement to us young pharmacists to plug into PSK for some of these opportunities. Okay, there's a comment in the. Should we, Dr. Anis, should we just take questions and leave comments for later?
Sure, we can do that. Let's move
Okay.
to the next speaker,
All
and then we move on.
Okay.
So the resume is a starting point for many people when they're looking for jobs. And the Good Life HR was sharing with me the other day. He said, he was telling me this story about how he received a CV from a pharmacist. So it was a she. She told the person who had applied for the job that this CV of yours is full of lies. And before the pharmacist could answer, the HR told her, that's great, because we need somebody like that in sales. Okay. Not that funny, I don't see anyone laughing, but that's okay. So our next speaker is a very accomplished young lady, and she should be a role model for many of you as you move along. She has 15 years of experience, both internationally and locally. And she has worked in both retail and hospital, with majority of her time being spent in hospital pharmacy. She has a bachelor's degree from the Curtin University in Perth, Australia, down under, and then a master's in clinical pharmacy from Queen University in Belfast, Ireland, and is currently pursuing her MBA in international health from the University of Cumbria and Zurich. Without further ado, she also believes in being patient-centered, and she knows that hard work pays off. Without further ado, I introduce to you Dr. Isha from the MP Shah Hospital.
Thank you, thank you for that lovely introduction. Welcome all participants for today's webinar. I can see we have a lot of participants. So after that introduction, I think I can tell you I'm mainly based in a hospital setup. So I'm currently the chief pharmacist at MP Shah, where we have around 600 to 1,000 employees, if you cover full-time and local. We have different branches around us, and out of this, the pharmacy team is roughly about 40 odd people. We keep 15 to 20 pharmacists, depending on locum and the areas that they're covering as well. So we do part-time and full-time, but mainly full-time we have about 15. Sorry, my office is having some light difficulties. Apart from that, I think a lot of it has been mentioned by Dr. Daniel from what we look for in a pharmacist when they're looking for new jobs. for the points that he may have missed, I think for us, honesty, integrity is probably one of the values we look for in a pharmacist. Whether you're been in the industry for a long time or not, is for us is not as important as the ability or willingness to learn. Hospital is more, there's a lot more clinical work that goes on than I can compare to retail or industry. And a lot of the people who do apply have an interest for clinical pharmacy. But as a hospital, I mean, there's only so much clinical you can do, but we prefer people who have that clinical background. We also look at abilities to be able to handle to be patient-centric. So things like patient complaints, are you able to carry yourself properly? Are you able to be part of a multidisciplinary team and answer questions that may be thrown at you? And your communication skills is very vital for us because you are dealing with a very big team. There's the physiotherapist, the pharmacist, the doctor. Because you're a part of a team, we really appreciate when people are able to communicate well. So for us, it's more of developing your skills that you already have. We're not so concerned about experience. We don't look so much on the business aspect of things, but for us, it's important you also are up to date. So for example, I mean, in an interview, we could ask you things about COVID or what's going on at the moment. We like you to keep up to date, but saying that we don't even penalize you on it, so long as you have some ability to show that you're able to keep up to date with what's happening around us. Obviously, we look at things like, you know, being able to manage variances and expiries and the standard stock control that we normally do. However, this is not something to be penalized on. These are things we teach you as you go. We look at decision-making skills and also your ability to handle maybe a patient complaint or be able to say, how would you deal with a patient in a certain atmosphere? We give you different scenarios and we expect you to have a little bit of appropriate decision-making skills on your own. Being a pharmacist, we also understand you're the team leader at that moment. So we do throw these scenarios at you. People with added advantages, we have a chemotherapy section, we have a pediatric section. We expect you to have knowledge in these areas and the main thing is be able to learn. I think other things we look at obviously is your documentation, registration, and legalities. You should know the law. It's a minimum requirement for us. Things on psychotropics, we do expect you to know your CAP 244 at the back of your head. And I think maybe the most vital part is to be a team player. Because we have such a large group and we come from such a large organization and we have different sections which you may be put in, we expect people to be team players. If one is not a team player, you bring the whole team down. So our expectations are have some knowledge, be willing to learn, keep up to date, have a basic knowledge of what pharmacy entails, and be a team player. I think as MP Shah, one of our largest values are to be patient-centric. So we do expect this out of you. So one of the challenges you might see in hospital is you need to be able to know, even if you are in the retail part of the hospital, you need to be able to know insurances, basic things like what do they cover, what don't they cover, just having a basic knowledge and being able to make decisions on the ground. I think that's really all we expect out of you. I'm sorry I didn't have a full-on speech like Dr. Daniel, but that's what we expect out of hospital pharmacists, and I'll take questions from there if there's anything.
Thank you, Dr. Isha. I can't see any question for you, but I think there's just a comment from one of the young pharmacists who says that he once you interviewed him for a job and he ended up learning a lot in the panel, and he'd just like to say thank you. So I think that's a positive for you. I think you've actually also interviewed me. I just remembered. So it's yeah, we should speak after this. But thank you so much for your comments, guys. If you do have a question for Doc, there's one there's somebody who's actually asking, is MP Shah hiring?
We're
So,
always looking for pharmacists, so send your CVs.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So guys, MP Shah is hiring, so please kindly send your CVs. So I think Dr. Anis, we can move to the next speaker as guys are, typing out their questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Esther. So when I was chatting with Esther the other day, she told me she had gone to Isha for a job. And so Isha asked her, she says, why do you expect such a high salary when you have no experience in this field? So Esther replied to her, she says, well, the job is much harder when you don't know what you're doing. It's true story, I tell you. Sometimes people share things when they don't know whom they're sharing with. So our next speaker is from a very well-renowned manufacturing company. He has 6 years of clinical and community experience in the UK, then spent 2 years traveling to South America and studied an MBA, at which point he decided to return to Kenya. It's kind of living my dream life, but that's okay. He then joined into industry, which he knew very little about, but was instrumental in helping develop the Kenya GMP roadmap and unlocking funds for the project development through GIZ and UNIDO. And perhaps he will tell us more about GIZ and UNIDO. His key strengths are developing people, capacity, and capability development. He has now 12 years in industry now. And so with a big round of applause, please welcome Dr. Nihal Shah to take the stage. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Anis. Good evening, everybody. I know some of the people here. It will be good to meet the other people. And thanks for making the time. Anis, just one thing you forgot. So the company that I come from is BioDeal Laboratories. And we're a family company. My father started the company in 1990s. And I think he's still in the business, and I think his registration numbers is in the double digit. So he registered in 1972. So we've been here as a family for a very, very long time. As you heard, I've also done, I've been through community, I've done clinical at the Manchester and St. Guy's Thomas Hospital at Boots. So I kind of have spent most of the entire spectrum of jobs here. Industry in Kenya, let me allow you to give a very quick brief on the Kenyan industry. I think majority of the pharmacists, especially the interns, when I do get an opportunity to interact with them at our facility, most of you are not interested, or they're really, differential, they have to do the thing. And I think also amongst local pharmacists, generally, the industry is not considered not a key player, but it's not a big player. So let me give you some quick statistics of what Kenyan industry is doing. Without a doubt, it is one of the most organized and advanced in sub-Saharan Africa. There's no doubt about that. We employ just under 10,000 people as an industry, and that's between, I think, about 25 or 26 companies. The total revenue is of the whole entire industry is around 350 to 380 million US dollars a year, and that's an estimate. Internally, as the Federation of Kenya Pharmaceutical Manufacturers, we really believe it's a bit higher than that, but that's a good estimate. And if you compare that the full value of pharmaceuticals coming through Kenya is around $1 billion. We hold a healthy 30 to 40% share of the market while creating employment and meaningful employment, because the salaries are generally 30% higher than not just for pharmacists, but also for the basic worker when you compare to many other industries, manufacturing industries. So in 2010, when I came here, the GIZ UNIDO were asking questions. Why isn't Kenya manufacturing HIV drugs, antimalarials? Why are we not supplying Global Fund, Clinton Foundation, etc.? And it was a big, long conversations. We had GIZ coming, UNIDO doing the projects. And what we found was, we told them, look, the basic steps of GMP, which is a good manufacturing practice, most of the companies did not understand it fully then. We didn't have the required workforce, knowledgeable, trainable at that time. So this is going back almost close to 11 years now. So eventually what we did, we worked with them. And I had an email by GIZ saying, we've got 300,000 euros. If you guys don't give us a project, we're sending it back to Germany. And this is where we came in and said, we don't know what GMP is. Can you help us? Can you help us advance? So they did the initial, they brought in a consultant. They trained the industry, everybody in the industry. And from there, we developed the Kenya pharmaceutical sector development policy. From there, in 2017, we launched the Kenya GMP roadmap. So if anybody wants to learn more about this, you can just go to the UNIDO website, or just Google the Kenya GMP roadmap, and the documents will come up there on the UNIDO website. This set the basic minimum standard for WHO, because one of the things for standards is the standards don't keep shifting, but the interpretation does, from inspector to inspector, from company to company, and how everybody approaches it. So what we wanted to do was have a unified approach. We also wanted the inspectors at Pharmacy and Poisons Board to be in line with us, because sometimes we find we're ahead at that time, or they're ahead of us. So we wanted to be aligned, totally aligned. In 2015, we got UNIDO to do a baseline assessment. And in 2018, they did a second assessment, and they risk rated majority, all the companies that were involved in Kenya. What that meant was, we believe, and many companies took the opportunity for training, capability development, capacity development, and work very hard to improve the standards. It is my very strong belief that at least 13 to 14 of the companies, the top companies, are at WHO level or even better, with a lot of investment in technology, investment in people, investment in infrastructure and quality management system. And it's something that many of the industries keep doing. So that's more like a look of the industry. Unfortunately, our industries do not have a very good internship program, and that's something that I've noted. It is my passion to develop people. Many of you, or some of you, may know that BioDeal usually hires a lot of fresh graduates. So we just hired 3 pharmacists who've just registered. We have another pharmacist who's registered last year. We have one pharmacist who is coming in a lot of experience for 10 years. And obviously my dad's been in the industry for over 30 years. So we currently have 7 to 8 pharmacists who are working for us, and the opportunities for getting more pharmacists are appearing as we are going on our journey towards WHO GMP, or full, integration with many other departments as well. So so with all these figures that I gave you, the opportunity, you can see the industry is growing at around 18% year on year in terms of revenue, which means the requirements for pharmacists is certainly there. They're there. The opportunities for pharmacists are there. And the other thing is, unlike importers or wholesalers, what the local manufacturers are doing is that we require across what I call the T. You've got the marketing and you've got the back-end operations. So QA, regulatory, production, product development, operations, marketing. And regulatory affairs. We are having pharmacists across the entire spectrum of this. And right now, for example, we've hired the 3 pharmacists. They're starting at the bottom as the production supervisors. And we have a 2-year program for them so that they can, at the end of 2 years, decide whether they want to become production managers, or go into specialists like, for example, coating technology that's coming on very strongly now, or compression technology, product development, process validations, cleaning validations. So, you know, as we are taking each step, more and more opportunities are opening up for pharmacists. Not just at BioDeal, it's across the industry. Many of our local industries are also across not just one site, they're across 2 sites, they're 3 sites. BioDeal is across 2 sites currently. If I talk about something like Ely's is across 3 sites. So, you know, that's all that is happening, and we're very well supported by donor funds in terms of capacity developments. We just have to give them projects, and they come and help finance the projects through consultancy or training. Also, a lot of interest in our industry from Global Fund. Currently, there is the African Medicines Agency, which is led by the African Union. We're already talking with IGAD, SADC, EAC, so they want to bring all these different regions to come together. So huge industry, opportunities here. Okay, so that's more or less the background of the industry. Now, when we look for pharmacists, what do we look for and why? And I'll be honest here, I sometimes get disappointed when it doesn't work out with pharmacists, because the first thing that we really look at is the grit and resilience. Industry is not easy. It's hard. You have to cross your T's, dot your I's. Inspections, some inspections are tough. 3 days, 4 days inspection. You're sitting there till 9, 10 o'clock at night with the inspectors. It is absolutely exhausting. You can't afford to forget everything. It's a long development process. So if you're in quality assurance, I can tell you it's a 5 to 7 year development process. And it's not just in Kenya where we don't have any formal training or formal setups. We learn on the job. Also, if you look at Germany, you're not allowed to become a quality assurance officer or qualified person for 7 years. And then at the end of 7 years, you sit an exam. You're reviewed by peers through a Viva, and then you can get your license as QP. In the UK, you have to sit 1 year. There's a Sunderland exam, and then you sit an exam, and then you need a 3-year mentorship before you can become that. So it is a long process. So you really need to have the grit, the resilience, the commitment, the long-term vision that, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to become a QA officer. I want to become a production person, a product development person. Lots of science, lots of technology is involved, and it all needs to come together at some point. We also look, when I interview, I also look for how I know most of you are young, you don't have work experience to speak of, but that does not mean that you don't bring across skills that you've picked up in the 6 years now university, or other curricular activities that you've done. For example, very important for collaboration. You know, you are working with engineers, you're working with process engineers, you're working with analytical chemists, you're working with directors who come in. So we have to learn to collaborate, to communicate, make sure everybody knows what they're doing, because when pharmacists come, you have a pharmaceutical point of view, but when you're talking with an analytical chemist, they don't have a pharmaceutical view, even though they know what's going on. So you bring different perspectives, and all that perspective must be brought together to create a very favorable solution at the end of it. We need to have self-starters. So I look at, are you a self-starter? You know, do you have to be told what to do, or do you just pick up stuff and get on with it? Because in this industry, not just BioDeal again, we don't have formal structures of training. We are setting one up, but it's still a lot down to you, what your interest is and how you're contributing towards the company. Therefore, you also need lots of leadership, management skills. So if you're still in uni, take up some of those roles, experience the leadership, experience the management roles, experience how do you work with people, teamwork, confidence. Before you come to interview, read about the industry. There are a lot of articles I've just told you on UNIDO about the Kenya GMP. The IMF have lots of details on what the industry is happening. You can find information on the internet everywhere, good sources of information. Facebook is not a good source, but everything else, you can actually find what's happening, and that allows us to have a very good interview with you. It allows us to really test your depth of thinking, not your knowledge, but your thinking. How are you able to think through a problem? How are you able to solve a problem? And really, a lot of pharmacists work right now is solving problems, doing root cause analysis, doing many of those stuff that is required by regulatory authorities to do it. So, and also, learning, constant learning. The standards don't, people say standards change. What I've seen is standards don't change too much. It's how do you interpret? How do you apply it? How do you apply the standards? So that's very important. And that's what we look for when we employ pharmacists, and not just pharmacists, engineers, chemists, microbiologists, so forth. Finally, I think commitment. If you're coming into industry, when you do get an opportunity to go into companies to do your internships, don't just stand there and whatever they say, come, sign in, and just walk around. Really get to the people, ask questions. Get to the QA pharmacist. Well, what are you doing? Can I help you? You're there for 2 months or 3 months. Ask them, can I help you in a project? Every company has projects going on. And let's face it, if we can get a bit of free labor in and out, we don't mind about that. But at least it's good learning for you, and we can show you really what the industry can do. I'll give an example. I had an intern who had come in just in March or April, and I was there for the whole week for some reason at the facility. And the first week she says, I'm bored. Can I just come 2 days or 3 days a week? And I said, hang on. So I went to my team and said, look, there's a pharmacist who's here, intern, who's saying she's bored. Let's give her some work to do. So we told her, look, we need some of this data to be collected on site. Can you go and do it? And I'll tell you what, she just picked up the manufacturing, and then she kept asking me questions. Oh, why aren't they doing this? Why is this done? What's happening this? Oh, it's so interesting. Clearly, if you don't do this, there's an impact here. If you do this, there's an impact here. And it was really a pleasure because I was there as well. So it was really a pleasure just talking the way through that particular intern, and then seeing her sort of thinking process, take over. So my advice to you, when you do get your internship, don't just go there, ask questions, ask production manager questions, what's going on here? Ask the workers, the people who are in compression, ask them, what should I be doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And often you'll find opportunities because most of the workers are just doing this as sort of Ottomans, like they're just told to do ABC and they do ABC. But you as a pharmacist will come in and realize, hang on, they need to fill in the gaps between A and B. There's also need to do, they're not doing it. It's something that maybe the company doesn't see it, but you as a fresh eyes can see it. It's great value and, contribution towards improving quality in the industry. So yeah, again, opportunities in regulatory affairs, many of the importers get ready-made dossiers. We create our entire dossier from scratch, from our product development to submission. Everything we do ourselves. That's involving, you're working with different teams. Same thing with product development. BioDeal will have one of the first R&D laboratories ready by next year. By December, we are going to be having one of the largest QC labs ready. So lots of product development, product optimization, where pharmacists can come in, but only if you ask questions, because some of the companies don't even know that they need you. And if you ask questions, even with those 3 months in internship, it is amazing. And you'll start seeing the kind of work and the kind of quality things that are happening in Kenya. It is amazing. Nobody believes us when we say Kenya is an advanced manufacturing industry. So I think, yes, I'll leave it at that. And I'll take up any questions now or later. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Nihal, for your presentation. I think one of the most important things that I've picked up from the presentation is the importance of self-initiative, especially during internship. I think many of us young pharmacists will attest to the fact that we went for our industry internship, and just stood, most of the time. So I think that initiative is very, very important. And also thank you for, saying that we don't have a very good internship, industrial internship program. And I think if that was made better, I think.
Let me just quickly say on that one. In 2017, 2018, I'd managed to unlock around €1,600,000 thereabouts. And we had run a one-term program with the University of Nairobi, whereby those who were interested out of a class of 60 or whatever they were, whoever was actually genuinely interested, they would do that as an extra module in the final year. We ran that for 2 years. So the idea was that UON would have developed the course and then offer it as part of its normal offering. So we just gave the industry and through GIZ, we just gave seed money. So they would learn the internship, and then every other week. So if you learned about water systems or infrastructure systems, those guys would be assigned to all the industries in Kenya. And they would come and spend to see, okay, what do we mean by water systems? What's all that about? So they would learn from that. So unfortunately, UN did not take it up as as part of a core course, because the industry was ready then to develop the internship, the practical aspect of it with the university. It didn't. So I don't know what happens. Just before COVID, we have signed an MOU. Unfortunately, it didn't go forward because the week after COVID hit with Kenyatta University and JKUAT. So JKUAT, we do take a lot of chemists, analytical chemists, because they have access to the full lab, the same Japanese equipment that most of the local manufacturers use. So they're already coming in the quality control lab, knowing how to use stuff. We want to do the same with Kenyatta University, and we had a discussion with the dean, and unfortunately next week COVID struck, so hoping to get those discussions back on track again. Also collaborations in product development. We should be having a mini lab where people can come and play around with how to make tablets, how to coat granulation processes, stuff like that, by probably middle of next year.
Yeah.
So all those developments, a lot of developments are taking place, not just with me, but many other companies as well. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're doing it right now with many students here, a huge opportunity during your internship. I know we're not proactive as employers or internship sites, but be proactive yourself. Ask questions and really push. The other pharmacists and the managers were there. I know they love to be asked questions. Everybody loves to show off their knowledge. So take advantage of that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for also just giving us that your perspective on the Kenyan industry. And I didn't know it's that tough, to be a QA manager. I didn't know it takes that long. But I think your point on resilience and commitment to the industry is very important. So I know you've talked for a really long time, not really long time. I mean, you've talked really you've used up your 10 minutes. So as we pick up questions for you, I'd really like to invite the next speaker. So Dr. Aniz, over to you, and we'll come back to you with your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nihal. That was excellent. So one of the things I'm great at is multitasking. I can waste time, be unproductive, and procrastinate all at once. So you see the skills that you need to be a good pharmacist. Our next speaker is a clinical pharmacist in Kiambu County, and he's also the chairperson of HOPAC. He has undergone a renal preceptorship course at the East African Kidney Institute, and currently he is the antimicrobial stewardship focal person in Kiambu County. He is passionate about patient-centered pharmaceutical care and enjoys mentoring young pharmacists on clinical pharmacy issues. Please welcome Dr. Hilary Kwagwa from Kiambu County.
Thank you, Dr. Aniz. And I think I must explain where I am because that's why I've not done my video. I'm coming from a funeral in Nakuru. When Dr. Mbao called me, I had to stop somewhere. I'm around Delamere shop. But because I'm passionate about this topic, I've decided let me stop here for around 30 minutes so that we can have this talk. And one thing I want to say is that I'm glad about this conversation that is going on today, because I wish myself, and I want to address this to the young pharmacists who are in school or upcoming pharmacists. I wish I had undergone this talk before 2008, before I graduated, because I think I'll have made even greater decisions in my life. But I'm glad we are here today. Then I've listened to several speakers, Dr. Angwai, my respected mentor, Dr. Isa, and Dr. Nihal, who has just spoke. And I think our profession, pharmacy, is that I think we have a lot to cover. We have neglected so much of our scope that I think this discussion today will bring to light what is lacking or what we need to take up. I'm a clinical pharmacist by profession, and I can say how I landed into this profession. Maybe briefly, I was posted to Ebuya Hospital as my first posting. So coming from school, I did not know much about our scope. So I knew my job is to order from KEMSA, to dispense, to make sure the records are okay. But fortunately, I came across of clinical pharmacists from MTRH, Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, who used to come to our hospital like once in a week. And I was so wondering why they were insisting they cannot do a ward round without a pharmacist. So luckily or fortunately, in my department, they used to say, Tumakagwa huko. So I used to attend to those ward rounds. Then eventually, we established an anticoagulation clinic, which I was so much involved with. So, and that's what I'm saying, luckily, because by then I had applied to do a public health master's program, and I'm glad I did not do it. I came to appreciate what so much a pharmacist can do to patient-centered care. And that's why Dr. Aniz has said, I'm so focused with patient-centered pharmaceutical care. There's so much that happens with our patients that concerns medications that as we don't take our role, that end up harming the patients, or they don't have having positive patient outcomes. So from then on, I became involved with the issue of medication therapy management, patient counseling, even simple things like just counseling patient on using on inhalers. And that really inspired me to do clinical pharmacy, which I did in University of Nairobi. And I can say even at my workplace, before I was posted to my recent position, is that there's so much pharmacists that we can take upon. I like the discussion by the last speaker in industry, who said it's all about commitment and that push. Because initially, when you go to these wards, the other cadres, initially, if they don't know what a pharmacist can do, they wonder what you can offer. But once you are consistent on patient counseling, prescription audit, adherence counseling, then they come to appreciate what you can do. So without talking much, what I will want to encourage my young pharmacists is that whichever position you choose to, whether it's regulatory affairs, whether it's industry, whether it's clinical pharmacy, first of all, you must come out. You must have confidence. Nowadays, you guys are spending more than 5 years in school. As guys, we used to do a crash program of 4 years. The much knowledge that you have gained in school, try to utilize it in all aspects. Let's not anyone try to downpin you. Have confidence in yourself. You have much knowledge. In whichever field that you are, you can influence patient management in our healthcare system. And I've seen in some comments, people commenting about salary. What I can comment about salary, because I'm a manager at the moment in Kiambu County, is that once you prove your worth in the patient healthcare management team, I think it's Dr. Nishal talked about multidisciplinary team. Once you've incorporated yourself into that team and you have shown your value into what you can offer into patient care, the issue of salary becomes an issue. In our county, all pharmacists who have done masters are recognized as consultants just because of what they offer to the patients. So as you venture into this field initially, don't be much worried about the salary. Once you prove your value to the whole spectrum of patient-centered pharmaceutical care, the issue of salary comes automatically. So I want to encourage you and also to attach yourselves to mentors. As the chairman of HOPAC, we've really pushed for several TWGs, and one of them is mentorship run by our able Secretary Dr. Iwak and Dr. Yukabeth, where we seek mentorship programs, especially in universities, where this just about to become graduates or those in school, where we mentor in the areas that they can venture into the pharmaceutical industry. So try to attach yourselves into, I wish I had such an opportunity, but we are trying our best as HOPAC also to mentor our young pharmacists. Don't think all is lost. There are so many areas that you can venture in our healthcare industry. So I don't think, I think I wanted to talk much, but this situation, but I really like this forum and I think we can have this discussion going on forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kagwa. Thank you for your presentation. I think one of the things we can appreciate is that times are different now, and it seems that we young pharmacists have to prove ourselves even harder. You know, because we are not getting direct posting, and so I think just that self-initiative and that self-drive to prove yourself to be interested and to be worthy of employment. I think that's what I'm getting from your talk. But so thank you so much, Kagwa. We don't have questions for you currently. And thank you also for answering the question about salary. That salary, the money comes. I know someone who says that money comes. It may not come at first, but eventually your skills will bring the money. So let's also just try to trust that the money comes eventually. So
hi, Dr.
Hi, me.
About the issue of the pharmacy being posted nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
the challenge I always pose to the pharmacists already on the ground,
Yeah.
please try to prove your worth on the ground so that even as we try to convince the county management to employ more pharmacists or more pharmacy consultants, at least we have a workload of what a pharmacovigilance pharmacist does or what a clinical pharmacist does or what a toxicology does, so that even as we present our discussion to the governor or to the management, telling them we need more consultants, pharmacists in this field, at least we have something to show that these were the mortality initially after the pharmacist interventions. These are the costs you have saved. These are the lives you have saved. These are the number of hospital days admission that we have reduced. So my challenge is always on those who are already practicing. Do something to create space for those who are coming up, of those who are coming behind us. Please let's work as a team. Let's work in the multidisciplinary team. Let's not isolate ourselves into the pharmacy. Ukiingia kwa pharmacy, utoi kwa pharmacy. Interact with the nutritionist, interact with the physiotherapist, interact with everyone, with the dentist. Know where you can intervene. After that, you can do an impact assessment and you can justify even employing the pharmacists who are coming, who are not being posted automatically, which affects also the medical officers and the dentists.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I'd like to just throw a question to you. There's somebody who wants to know how to join HOPAC. And as you tell us how to join HOPAC, then there's also another question that's asking if counties are reimbursing clinical pharmacists for their consultation at county level in addition to their salary. So are clinical pharmacists getting consultation reimbursement? So please, a question to you, Dr. Kagwa, and then also just tell us how we can join HOPAC as young pharmacists.
Thank you for that. I think about HOPAC, I'm going to answer that lastly. But as I said, clinical pharmacists are being recognized as consultants in our healthcare system. So we must show our value in providing patient-centered care. So when you're a clinical pharmacist, there are so many areas. As Dr. Anis described, I've also done a renal preceptorship course. I do medication therapy management for diabetes patients and those with chronic illnesses. Just by working as a clinical pharmacist in the public healthcare system, you are recognized as a specialist consultant in your field of practice. So when they are promoting people based on their qualifications of the area of practice, we are being recognized as consultants. So that's a way of in the public healthcare system. In private, and that's why I appreciate Dr. Ongwae, what he mentioned earlier, there's so much scope of practice that you can practice in private or community pharmacy. Issues to do with vaccination, issues to do with family planning services. I've attended a course in University of Nairobi in collaboration with Kenyatta National Hospital, where we are trained as pharmacists to offer immunization practices. And with this COVID pandemic, if you can look at the data coming from the United States, pharmacists are the ones who are offering vaccination services in the community. So if you take up these practices, you'll be compensated either in public or public, depending on what you are offering. As I said at the beginning of my discussion, is that what value are you adding to the patient care? So I think if we all practice at our levels of practice, whether it's in industry, if you can offer practice that can be recognized, whether it's community pharmacy, whether it's in the public healthcare system, then your value, of course, will come out eventually. You'll be recognized as a consultant, or you're offering a special services which need to be reimbursed. That's it. The other question about joining HOPAC, HOPAC is very easy to join. HOPAC is just Hospital Pharmacists Association of Kenya, where we promote the best hospital pharmacy practice in Kenya. We just share experiences across our areas of practice, both in public, private, and mission hospitals, where we come up with the SOPs, we come up with the guidelines on how we can streamline the practice of pharmacy in Kenya to improve patient-centered care. So what you need just to do, just visit the HOPAC website. Is there on the website. Whether you are a student or you are a practicing pharmacist, as a student, you can join as an associate member. Or if you are practicing pharmacist in hospital, you can join as a full member. If you're a pharmacist practicing in any other area out of hospital pharmacy, either in academia, regulatory affairs, industry, community pharmacy, you can join as an associate member. And then we just collaborate in our areas of practice. Thank you, Esther.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kagwa. And for those who don't know, Dr. Kagwa is the current chairman of HOPAC. So thank you so much for the work you continue to do. And of note is some of the comments in the chat that's applauding you for the work that you do at Gatundu Hospital. So we continue to celebrate you. And so thank you so much, Dr. Kagwa, for that. Dr. Anis?
Thank you. We're going to now change gears a little bit. And I wanted, this topic was going to be covered in depth by Dr. Mwaniki, because he has had the opportunity to interview many young pharmacists, and he was going to share his stories and experiences of how he managed them. However, he is stuck in another meeting, and I'm going to ask Dr. Daniela to talk about grooming and etiquette. I was just sharing with one of your colleagues this evening to say that if you can look so beautiful when you're at your graduation party, and really when you're coming for a job, you're looking like you're still in school. So maybe there's a disconnect there between the real you and the you. So Daniela, if you can just share a few thoughts about etiquette and grooming. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anis. Yeah, so etiquette and grooming. Some workplaces tend to have an informal style of dress and working, and some workplaces are very formal in terms of how you should dress and how you should address each other. As a job seeker or as a new employee, or when you're going for interview, you should always err on the side of formal. You should always present yourself in an extremely formal manner until such a time as you observe the working culture of the place. And so for the young men, a huge afro might have been okay in school, but that's not a formal way of dress at the workplace. So you need to have your hair short. You need to have at least dress pants, not jeans or khakis, when you're going for interview or the first few days you report to a new job. The reason is, and of course, for everybody, hair must be neat and they must be formally dressed. The reason is first impressions count. The place where you're going to seek employment don't know anything about you. They make conclusions based on how you appear. And so you don't want to miss that just based on how you look. So give it your best shot. Now, about the way that you speak, again, you need to be very formal. Sheng is a no-no. Any type of slang or street language is it's not acceptable to speak like that on your interview. I will also tell you, if you're going for an interview with a pharmacist, PSK has our own code of addressing each other. If you're addressing a fellow pharmacist, for anybody who is significantly older than you, you refer to them as my respected senior. For anybody who is your cohort or behind you in age, you refer to them as my esteemed colleague. Of course, we have honorable fellows of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, and those ones we refer to them as honorable fellow doctor or honorable fellow professor so-and-so. So that already can tell you how to address the pharmacist, if it's a pharmacist that is addressing you. If it's not, of course, the usual sir or madam or Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so will still work. But you cannot come for interview at PSK and tell me, Daniela, this, that, and that. I want to tell you, Daniela, let me tell you, Daniela, no, that's a no-no. As I said, some places differ. Some are I have worked in very casual places where we could wear jeans to work every day. But when you're going to seek a job, you need to err on the side of being extremely formal. And on that note, I will read comments that we got from Dr. Mwaniki, who's not been able to join us today. I'll just read some of his remarks verbatim because he's interviewed quite a number of you. So he said this some days ago. Yesterday, I interviewed 5 young pharmacists for locum at my place. There were 3 men and 2 ladies. Among the men, none had a tie on, and none bothered to come with their complete documents. One had not even tucked in his shirt. Another one, you asked a question in English and he replied mixing English, Kiswahili, including Sheng. I wonder where we lost these young pharmacists. There's a serious problem. I hope that has been well taken. Another time he said, for the last 5 years, I have complained about the presentability of people who come for pharmacists who come for interviews, but I'm not seeing any improvement. So you must differentiate your appearance when you're in school and your appearance when you're going to look for a job. I think that's simple and easy to remember. So I'll stop at that, Anis.
Thank you, Daniela. And for those of you who don't know, my respected colleague is a former Miss Kenya. So you heard it straight from the horse's mouth.
Okay, Dr. Anis.
Yes, go on.
Just before I log out, okay, there's one thing our able CEO has mentioned, and I was so shocked. The other day I was invited to be an external examiner to an institution. I could not believe my eyes when I saw people walking in for orals or Viva in shorts, in dreadlocks, in vests. Then I was like, hey, kwani masomo ilibadilika? So I think that presentability, because we are professionals at the end of the day. So please let's look presentable, as that Dr. Daniela said. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kagwa. Do any of the other panelists have any other experiences they would like to share regarding this topic of grooming and etiquette and presentability? Dr. Isha?
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Hi, Mike, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Anis, for giving me this opportunity. I think I'm really excited that we had this discussion. I think it's so timely. This is something that we need to encourage also, not only for those that have graduated. I think it should start at the pre-service. Now, I think maybe just to weigh in onto the grooming that has already been talked about by Dr. Daniela. There's also the social media grooming that people need to be very keen about. Employers nowadays do a little bit of data mining online, before candidates come for interviews. So it's very, very important that people are able to transition from school to work life. I know it's sometimes painful because there are people who want certain images maintained. They know why they want those images maintained. There are certain attributes that came with that social media presence in school. But once you transition and get to the workspace, even your profile pictures, really need to reflect what you bring to the table or what you bring to the interviews. So employers are very keen on what you do on Facebook or whatever other social media platforms. And you may need to have a separate social media platform if you want to maintain certain things, because again, life has to continue. Now, again, the other thing is, over and beyond presentation, when you come for interviews and so on, this is something I usually tell my graduates, is that even as you look smart, make sure that whatever presentation, whatever clothes you're wearing, or whatever jewelry are not symbolic or might not irritate a potential employer. Yes, we're entitled to certain things. It could be religious, it could be social, it could be political, but it's important to do a little bit of background work to where you are going to look for work, so that you find out exactly what is expected of people who are coming to look for work there, and a little bit of background of that particular potential employer, so that you're not getting in there and you're getting shocked. Thank you, Dr. Anis.
Thank you, Mike. You might find we are addressing each other by first name, but we are all on the neck together. So we are really colleagues, and we're used to each other, and you find us just addressing each other as first name. I've been asked that we're ending, it's time to close. I would have liked that we talk about other things, but maybe we will take this in another month and we talk about why are pharmacists still remaining unemployed, and we can take that as a session. In closing, I think Dr. Mwaniki is there. Maybe I can give him 3 minutes to say a few words. Dr. Mwaniki. Dr. Mwaniki, you can hear me?
Dr. Anis, I think I need to make him a panelist. Just give me 1 minute.
So in terms of parting shot, Dr. Isha, would you like to say some final words?
Anis, maybe just to add on to what everyone has talked about, grooming. I think it's not just about your external appearance, but also attitude in interviews. The way people answer questions goes back to, you know, how you communicate. I think taking it lightly that you have finished school and you are a pharmacist does not necessarily confirm you will get a job. And you can see a big difference in people who come in for interviews, who came in 5 years ago and who come in today. There is definitely an attitude gap. It's not just knowledge or, I think, physical presentation, but also humility and having the ability to answer the questions that you're being asked. So just to add on to what the rest of them have said, I think it's really important to also look at the attitude when you're going for an interview. We've had interviews where you're asking questions, they go outside and everybody's, you know, discussing the questions, loud laughter. You have to be presentable in all means and manners, because you're not only being watched by probably the people interviewing you, but your fellow colleagues also. So you set an example even as you're working. So patients watch the same attitude you carry forward. That's just all I have to say.
So Anis had said,
yes, Dr. Mwaniki, please say a few words for us, for the young pharmacists to gain from your wisdom.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Sorry I've joined late. I know many of the things have been talked about.
You're muted, Dr. Mwaniki.
Using my phone, someone called me. That's also bad manners. So what I wanted to advise the young guys, us as private sector, we are ready to work with them, but we need. I've realized for the 10 years I've been in business, and for almost 6 years I've been employing pharmacists and even medics, even nurses, lab techs. There seems to be something missing about maybe the current generation. Maybe it's us who have not mentored them properly, and that's why we have this Zoom meeting. Just to say, like, so that I don't waste a lot of time, I'll just give some interview I did for pharmacists like 3 weeks ago. So I had 5 people who turned up. 2 are ladies and 3 were gentlemen. The ladies, to say the truth, they had prepared for the interview. They came dressed for the interview. The gentleman had, out of the 3, there's one who came. First of all, he had untucked shirt. He had first of all a jean, almost like, is it corduroy or nene, and then an untucked shirt. And in responding to question, he seemed to be well informed on that. But now, look, someone has come for an interview with an untucked shirt, and you're coming to meet a potential employer. That one, I personally was shocked that it actually can happen, because during our time that was unheard of. So that is something which can just make you lose your job. When you're going to look for a job, go as if you're actually looking for a job as the chief pharmacist of that company, and that you're actually there to report for a job as your first day at work. You have come ready to work. In case you're given the job, you can start immediately. Then I have another gentleman. Obvious, all the gentlemen, none of them came wearing a tie. Obvious, no one had a suit. So no one had a suit, was wearing a suit. Obvious, suit goes with a tie. So all of them had just a trouser and a shirt. So I've said about one. The other one, obvious, no tie. But when I ask him a question, I ask him a question in pure English. He answered the entire question in Sheng, a mixture of English, Kiswahili, and even Sheng. Then you wonder whether you're not talking to I mean, you're not in a bar just discussing things. I've asked you, I'm here interviewing you. I'm even an older pharmacist than you, and I'm interviewing for a job. When I ask you a question, you reply in a mix of English and Kiswahili. I found that strange, and those are some of the things we need to point out now, because that is what some of the things which are making the young pharmacists lose a job. You have to be having prepared for the interview. When you ask the question, unless someone says I'm interviewing in Kiswahili, then if you asked in English, you should actually, the whole conversation is in English and in well-spoken English as you're taught in high school. So I just wanted to point that one, that seriously, we have a lot of problem with the young men pharmacists, especially in hairstyle. There are some hairstyles that are not for pharmacists. I don't know the universities, but you just know that your hairstyle should be official. Official means short hairstyle and well-groomed, not long beards. I know there's this fashion of beards all over where people are putting a lot of beards. It has or no shave November or something. You cannot come to look for a job or to work in a pharmacy in such kind of hairstyle, afro or what. It has to be not properly well shaven, not completely clearing your hair, but short enough. There are some hairstyles totally they're not for professional pharmacy, because when I'm giving that job to work at my pharmacy, I want when my patients come and you are there receiving their prescription to dispense, do they see you as a pharmacist, daktari, or they see you as a young guy who has just cleared school and with something like that? They have to have the trust or the respect to the person dispensing before even they get the medication. I know the rest you guys have talked about, so I don't want to repeat. But the young people, right now I always tell people I know there are still many young pharmacists who are still waiting for government employment. World over, government is always the smallest employer. In fact, the work of government is to establish policies and guidelines and grow the economy for the private sector to grow to employ. So it's unlikely, and I don't think it will ever happen, that the issue of automatic absorption for pharmacies or even for medics or anyone will ever happen. So everyone should be focused on what is happening in the private sector. The private sector, the requirements are strict. If you come there, you don't follow things. Even if we hire you, we can even fire you tomorrow. And those are some of the things you have to know, that you have to be at your most behavior and you have to be deliver. It's a private sector, even by the time even you get a necessary increment, did you achieve your last year's targets? What new things have you even exceeded the target? So it's based on service delivery and performance. Unlike the public sector, whereby when you get in, you have your salary until you retire at the age of 60. Let me finish there so that I don't repeat what other people say.
Thank you, Dr. Moniki. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Moniki is the immediate past chair of PSK. And he is, I would say, one of the people who brought change to pharmacy a few years back. So as closing remarks, let me give this opportunity to the speakers. Nihal, you have some closing remarks?
Hello, yeah, thank you for this opportunity to talk to everybody about the industry, what's going on in the industry. There's a lot more going on. I think PSK should continue these discussions, maybe have a youth team, one of your subcommittees, also get PSK to actively engage with their FKPM. So, we can continue developing very specific roles for the pharmacists in the future. Because it is required. Also, PSK, I've just been there, you can send, you can look at the mutual recognition agreements, which I think were not signed, where pharmacists and healthcare workers in general can move across the region. There are regions in Rwanda, Uganda, where they are crying for pharmacists, but there's none, and here we have too many. So that's something that PSK can probably start taking up with the EAC Secretariat. And that's it. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Nihal. Next, closing remarks from Daniel.
I would like to say
You're
thanks for this
there, Dr.
opportunity.
Daniel.
Yeah. So thanks for this opportunity. It's been great talking to my respected colleagues and the upcoming pharmacists. I hope to see you in the retail sector. I've seen a question there that's asked what changed in the retail sector. I think is the fact that back by the time we were graduating, it was normally pharmacist driven. I think that's what changed. Now it became driven elsewhere, and we can get back to where we were and return it to the levels of practice that we used to see it then. Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope to take part in this again.
Thank you. Any closing remarks, Dr. Kagwa?
It's okay. I'm still on the road, but it was a nice discussion. And I hope our young pharmacists have taken what we are talking. And I think what Dr. Anis said, I think we need to have this conversation like next month. We continue. Because I've seen someone asking, what is the official wear? And what is the official language in Kenya? Anyway, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Closing remarks, Esther.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the speakers who have, given us presentations. And just speaking as a young pharmacist, I recognize the challenges that we do go through, and I'd like to thank the panelists for giving us the insights, but also to challenge them, since the dynamics of the market is different, to just provide those opportunities and be mentors to us young people, as we come up or as we enter the job market. But otherwise, thank you so much. And I think we should put a pause to this conversation, and these conversations need to continue, and hopefully, just to equip us with the skills that are necessary to do that which we're passionate about. So mine is just, to just say thank you, and to just challenge the older folk who are in front of us to give us those opportunities, but also for us to claim those opportunities by showing interest in whatever industry that we are, whatever section or other, whatever sector of pharmacy that we are interested in. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Esther. Dr. Daniela, any closing remarks?
It's just to thank the panelists for sharing their insights, and to hope that the young pharmacists have taken it in good faith, and that they will hit their
I think, Dr. Daniela, have you stopped speaking?
I think we can't hear.
Okay, great. Any closing remarks, Bao?
Mine is just to say thank you very much, Dr. Anis, respected senior
Any
Dr.
closing
Anis.
remarks?
Mine is just to say thank you very much, respected senior Dr. Anis, and the wonderful panel that was today. I personally take it as a personal lesson. Thank you very much, Dr. Moneki, on the grooming part. These are lessons that we take personally. Asante.
Dr. Anis. Anis.
Yes, Dr. Moniki.
Yeah.
Yes,
Someone
go
asked
ahead.
what's the. Yeah, I'm just saying what is. Someone asked what's the right dress code. If when Bao was speaking, you saw the photo which came there. That is the dress code. If maybe everyone, I hope everyone saw that. That's what we expect when you're coming for an interview to dress. But even if you can't, the suit is expensive. Just have what is there, a very nice shirt and a tie and a good trouser and shoes. That one makes a lot of it. But that is a dress code for a pharmacist coming to work or even coming for interview. And even the hairstyle. Look at Mbao. Mbao is a typical example. And lastly, because I will not speak, my closing remarks is that despite the challenges young pharmacists are having, we've started seeing a trend. And today we started seeing a trend now, the young pharmacists, either due to desperation, starting to do things like now, what we call illegal things or criminal things. Like one, you employed someone, then you start stealing. I've had an experience. Today, even I was seeing in a Facebook post of a doctor in Kisumu. He was saying he employed a young doctor, and also the same thing, they started stealing from him. And also, even when he sees patients, he even calls them for them to send money to him. So those are things we have. I stopped employing farm techs when most of them, they had that culture of stealing. So we hope it doesn't creep to we have not been having that role among pharmacists. So, but I've started detecting some of those. You need to be very careful. First of all, it's criminal. Apart from, you can end up in jail if we take you to police station and to court. There also, us as the owners of facilities, what I've decided is that in case you steal from me, I'll follow you wherever you go, and I'll make sure it's not fair for me, you steal from me, then I just let you go, and then later I come to know you're working for one of the other business owners who is a pharmacist, and I don't inform them that actually this guy stole from me. Chances are he'll steal from you. So it is so serious that it can end up actually rendering you jobless for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Dr. Moniki. I see Eric is on the call, or is it just his link that is being used? If Eric is on the call, please say hello. If not, whoever is using Eric's link can also say hello so that we can end this call.
Thank you, Dr. Anis. I had indicated I don't want to comment, but I think this is a very good session. I've enjoyed it, and I'm sure most of the young pharmacists have. Thank you all. Bye.
So thank you all very much for joining us. My parting shot is don't lease your license. And with those few words, I hope you have enjoyed this session. And if you have any other comments, if you have any other suggestions, if you would like PSK to organize something specific, use your young pharmacist group. They are now in constant dialogue with Dr. Daniela and the president of PSK. We can see what we can do further, and we hope we can carry on this as maybe, if not monthly, we can do a bi-weekly session where we can have 3 or 4 senior pharmacists who can come and share experiences with the younger ones. I think it will take some while. I think Dr. Jayesh was on this call. He would be a very good panelist, and maybe we'll get him next time. So thank you. Have a good evening. Stay safe, and Lala Salama.